Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So what we're going to be doing today is working on this 2015 Mark 7 Ford Fiesta zetec S. And what we're going to be doing is changing the brake pads and brake discs. So let's get into it. First things first, always take off the brake fluid reservoir cap, because what we're going to be doing is winding back the piston to fit in the new brake pads, and what they'll do is push fluid back up the system, and you don't want it blowing your lines. Second thing is we're going to be locating the two caliper bolts on the back here. What I've done is turn the steering wheel facing us this way so we've got more room to work. So first things first, in terms of caliper, is get your 12mm ratchet and crack off these two caliper bolts here, top and bottom. And what you should do then is slide this caliper out and place it on top of the disc like that. Don't put too much flex in the line there, and that should show you your pads. These pads, they've still got a couple of thousand miles in them, but what I'm doing is actually, well, I'm rebuilding the whole car, so I want to put fresh discs and fresh pads. Slide them out of the shims. They should come out pretty easily. So that's your front, that's your back. Come on. One sec. So there are your two pads. I've put this one there and that one there. They're identical, but with some models the back pad will have a different design to the front pad. So this is how it looks. What I always recommend is checking the old ones to the new ones, and they are identical. My kit actually comes with new shims, which I didn't realize. So what you're gonna want to do is pull these shims out. They should come out pretty easily, or they might have seized in there. You may not have to do this, but I would recommend taking them out just to clean the caliper bracket and the shims themselves. So once they're out, get yourself a wire brush and clean down where the shims sit and the entire caliper bracket itself. Just whilst you're here, just do some maintenance. So these shims are a slightly different design to OEM. I'm going to try and put these brand new ones in. If they don't work, I will clean off the originals and put them back in. What I've done is put a touch of copper grease in there, just so if the next sort of mechanic or next person comes to remove these shims, they might have an easier time than I did, because there was no copper grease on them. And I'm just going to sit these shims back in here like so. Well, nearly. Make sure these shims are clipped in nicely to the bracket, and another touch of copper grease so the pads can slide freely. And just a really thin layer on the back there and the ears of the pad. And now we're going to slide these in. Right, so that is new shims and new pads in, with a slight layer of copper grease all over, just to help everything not seize up basically. And what we're going to do now, you need a brake rewind tool. Yours may look a little different. They're quite cheap on eBay. This is a Draper one, and you can actually put a socket on the end there just to help you out. What you're going to do, this piston gets pushed by the brake pedal, and what it'll do, as the pads wear over time, it'll actually push this piston forward. So what you want to do is reset this piston by rewinding it all the way back to the caliper. So I'll show you that. As you can see, that's wound all the way back now to the caliper. So what we're going to do is refit this, making sure you don't flex the brake cable, the brake line too much. That should slide on nicely there. So yeah, that's perfect. Next, we're going to get our original bolts, our 12mm head bolts, and we're going to put some thread locker on the end of these bolts. And don't go stupid with it, you just want a little bit at the end there. We're going to pop these back in the hole, and we're going to thread them back in. Put them on with your hand at the start, and then we'll get the ratchet on there. Make sure they're up nice and tight. Sometimes you may need to put a spanner on the end of this one, but that's back on there nice and tight now. And now we're going to move on to the brake disc. Now what you want to do is locate the two main bolts that hold on this bracket now. So we're going to be taking the whole caliper off. and there's one at the top and one at the bottom, and the head is a 15mm socket. So just take them two out. With those two bolts out now, I've rested it on top of the dust shield, and what we're going to do is actually we're going to hammer this disc off. A few taps from the hammer, this is actually wiggle loose now, and that should slide off. That's your old disc, and as you can see there's quite a big lip on these, and it's always good to replace the discs and pads at the same time. And what I'm going to do now is actually get my wire brush again and clean off the wheel bearing. So with that wire brushed, I've put a thin coat again of copper grease to stop it from seizing for the next person. You're always trying to help the next guy with their job. Next step, get your brand new disc, get some degreaser or some brake cleaner, and what they do, they put a protective film to stop these from rusting from the factory. So we're going to take that layer off all around and on the back. Just get some brake cleaner from anywhere really, any car parts shop. It's pretty cheap. With that layer of film off, we can line up with a new brake disc. That's your lovely new brake disc, and what we do is just the reverse now. So we set this caliper back up, we're going to put some thread locker on the bolts, and then we're going to do them up. That's your thread locker. Once again, not too much. Make sure you tighten those right up as best as you can. Might be a good idea to turn the wheel back facing you and get a nice breaker bar on there, just to give yourself as much torque as possible. And that is it for the install, guys. This is easy as that. You only need a couple of tools, a specialist tool for the brake rewind, and that is it. Normally I put the wheel back on, lower the car and put the cap back on the reservoir bottle, but what I'm going to do the other side now, and then I'm going to rebuild the rest of the car. But what you want to do after you've installed your new brakes is turn the car on, move the car, make sure the brake pedal's working correctly, and then for the first 100 miles I normally recommend try not to emergency stop, and try and just be light on the brakes, just so you don't get any flat spots and the pads marry up to the discs nicely, and you're away, guys. So I hope you've all enjoyed the video. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Ta-da.